Welcome back, Lake County. This is your host, Dick Barr, with Unlocking Lake County, here with Kristen Kaufman. Say hello.
Welcome back, everyone.
And our special guest, the featured guest this week, Paul Berker, Lake Villa Township Trustee and Venetian Village Civic Association President. Paul Berker.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. I like having people who understand technology in here because this is such a cool space that we've got. Mm-hmm. And Paul, I know you're kind of a technophile, so to speak. I've been through your warehouse and seen a lot of the cool technology that you have. So give us an introduction. Who are you? What do you do? What's your history, background? And then I want to talk some about unincorporated living and some of the Lake Villa Township stuff.
Well, I've been doing computer stuff since mid-'70s. I was a Fortran programmer, actually, with punch cards. No
one listening knows what Fortran is.
Yeah. There's a few old guys that might know.
Yes.
But, IBM 360, maybe when you were a kid you heard about those, but those were the kind of machines that I worked on.
Okay. Would those have been like the Wang machines with the giant floppy disks?
Well, similar, yeah. I mean, they had... what they call platters, giant platters that were like, a couple foot across, spinning things, and they held 5 megabytes.
I remember when I bought my first gigabyte hard drive. I think it was right around 1995 area, and I was just so excited.
Yeah.
What was your first computer you ever worked on?
Well, the first one that I owned was an Apple II, and that would have been like 1976. But
Apple II, okay. So I worked on Apple IIs and Apple IIes with doing some spreadsheet software, playing Oregon Trail, of course. And then they had a really cool Jeopardy game that we had, and it had some of the earliest components of what do you call it when it takes your input that you type and it like auto corrects it. So if like you were to type, it approximates what you mean, so it doesn't have to be verbatim. So, and I'll explain the situation. I was playing a game of Jeopardy, and the answer was something like this moment celebrated on the 15th of March every year, blah blah blah, whatever it was, and the category was things that start with I, and I jumped in, and my answer was Independence Day, and it gave me the answer right, because Independence Day was close enough to Ides of March, according to the Apple IIe computer. What's funny about that is I have a friend to this day. We only talk one time a year, and we just text each other saying Happy Independence Day on March 15th.
Oh, that's so funny.
And that goes back to like the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you do hardware, software, both?
Everything, pretty much from where your these days where your internet comes in to the computers, the wiring, the switches, the computers, pretty much the software, debugging people's problems, if they got a virus or if they got just something that isn't working right.
Are most of your clients, are they corporate clients? Are they individuals?
Mid-sized businesses, businesses that have a few $1 million worth of sales a year or more.
Okay.
But not huge.
Yeah.
They've got guys in suits. Remember the old commercials where the guy had the white Corvette and the white lab jacket, and he'd get into his Corvette and take off, because he did computer work,
Oh, okay. Computer industry has changed quite a lot over time. I was in computers right before the .com crash, and just about everyone was making money at that time, big dollars, even for simple
everybody
A+
put a shingle out and says, I do computers.
I loved how like someone who can like turn a screw was calling themselves an engineer. I'm a computer engineer. Well, yeah. So what's that? I don't know, but I can unscrew it.
Well, a lot of it is there is some certification things that you can have as a computer person,
right.
But most of them don't have any kind of credentials as far as that goes. With me, it's pretty much referrals.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been working for one of my same companies since 1980.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
I hope they've upgraded some of their equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, every 10 or 20 years we got to upgrade.
Now, some of the cool things that I saw in your shop there were some of the old entertainment games, the old nickel games, the quarter games. Like my favorite is the bowler with the actual ball and not the puck.
Right.
Do you fix those for people, or you just fix them for yourselves?
Well, for the most part, for myself, and especially some of that stuff is, if they'd have to be almost in the neighborhood, otherwise, it's too far away to be traveling every day. Some of it takes, weeks or months to do a total repair.
Yeah, because there's a lot of contacts in those games.
I probably spent, a year or two, in spare time fixing the one big ball bowler that I have.
Really?
It came in and it was in sad shape. I got it for $300.
Oh, wow.
And it had been in a bar, and it had somebody threw a ball through the back glass, and it was dirty, and just the wood was in really bad shape. So it took a lot of physical labor just to get the outside cosmetics repaired and looking decent again.
So this is something you actually have in common with my co-host, Kristen. Kristen's husband does the same thing. He's in this business.
He is, yeah. He and his business partner own an arcade out in Gurnee, and then they run an arcade that's local. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the business name or not. So
you can say where they work.
yeah,
Sure.
So he runs Kristoff's Entertainment Center over in Round Lake Beach, and his absolute favorite part of his job is being able to take apart the games and learn how they work and fix them up. And he and his business partner also do personal calls to fix up like pinball machines and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, he loves it. It's so much fun for them.
So Paul, I don't want to just spend too much time on this because I want you to talk a little bit about the kind of the public work you do. So tell us a little bit about Lake Villa Township and your role with them.
Oh, gee, because I've been involved in the Venetian Village for a long time, and going back to, I can't remember who the gal was before Sue Hansen was supervisor. Dorothy Thompson.
Oh, okay.
Was township, and we went to township meetings a lot back in those days, to complain about one thing or another. It's always, you don't go to a meeting unless you got something to complain about.
You don't show up to be like, just wanted to let you know everything's going great.
Right?
Yeah.
Rarely.
Yeah, exactly. Our room is empty when we have meetings now because nobody's, for the most part, nothing to complain about. But,
that's good problem to have.
We had, in those days, we were talking about Mobileye and Neighborhood Watch, pre-cell phone. Nobody had a cell phone. We had walkie-talkies and CBs if we were lucky.
Right.
And our big thing was like in the early days, in Halloween, was to try to keep the kids safe. And back in the 80s, the parents didn't go out trick-or-treating with their kids. The kids
Really?
were just. Oh, the kids, were just walking around all by themselves. Occasionally, they had, an older brother with them or something, but for the most part...
Such a crazy concept.
And there was some really, I wouldn't say bad things happening, but there are people running around stealing the candy from the kids and stuff. And, some of the older teenagers were, acting less than desirable.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then there was vandalism, the M80s and the pumpkins and all that kind of stuff going on. So we put together a neighborhood watch Mobileye thing. So we had probably a half a dozen people in cars that would drive around during Halloween. We had the magnetic signs on the side of the car and all that. And we sort of tried to keep things under control. And somebody was like the base station, we'd talk back to them and see if we had to call the county for the sheriff to come out and stuff like that.
And that's an interesting point, too, because you being an unincorporated, the coverage of the sheriff is very limited.
Yeah, you don't see him very often. If you think about the whole county, there's maybe 5 squads. And if you divide the township up into quarters, there's 1 squad in each quarter and a 5th one that's a floater that goes around, especially at nighttime.
Yeah.
So, it's going to take a while before they show up for something. And, these days there's so much going on. The stolen cars and break-ins and stuff. It's a miracle that they can get to you at all.
Will Lake Villa ever step in an emergency and get there if necessary?
Yeah. Lindenhurst or Lake Villa, they'll show up on something that's critical.
So Lindenhurst, too?
Oh, yeah. Lindenhurst has come over for some things.
Oh, that makes sense because that entrance.
They're actually a lot closer.
Yeah, they're right there by Granada. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even think of that. I always think about Lake Villa when I think of Venetian Village. But proximity-wise, you're closer to Lindenhurst.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about, so you've been on the township board since?
I'm going to say 03, 04, somewhere in that range. So about 20 years now coming up.
Okay, cool. You do a good job as far as I'm concerned. I don't see any problems. I consider what the township provides for the cost is superb. You look at all these surrounding communities, and they have very expensive what do you call them, park districts.
Well, I think things are, Dan Venturi's a supervisor, and not to be patting him extra on the back, but I mean, all these things that are going on is because he just makes it run smooth. I mean, he's really the best supervisor since I've lived here that we've had.
What are some of the things that are going on? What are you guys talking about?
Well, going back to the beginning, I mean, when he was working with the building that used to be Gavin North School, and we converted that to township purposes. We acquired the building. I don't remember what we paid for it, but it wasn't a lot. And, we put money into fixing it up, getting rid of the asbestos and getting the HVAC, the heating and air conditioning going. Now it turned into a space for the assessor to move into because he was out of space in the building we had. And then the rest of the place, has a gymnasium and different things. And so we were...
Yeah, my kids used to play floor hockey there, iceless hockey.
Yeah.
Oh,
and a lot of the schools, they have their practices in there for cheerleading or... I don't know what some of the other things are, but they're in there a lot using the facilities and then the classrooms. In the past, we've had homeschoolers using the building, although they're not currently, but they were in there one day a week filling the place up.
Like a homeschool group?
Yeah, they were using a majority of the space in the building.
Really?
Oh, there were a lot of them in there.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure where they're at now, but they're not there now. Then we had some different. The scouts are in there big time. One day a week.
What about Camp Peacock? I know that's something that the township took on, and I know that's a successful...
Yeah. Well, that was a huge thing. We'd been looking at it for a couple of years before we did get it, and, we were actually in negotiations trying to purchase it. And the people that we were trying to purchase it from were a little difficult because, we'd come up on a thing, and we'd say, hey, okay, $1.3 million or something, and... wind up then negotiations fell apart at the last minute, even though they'd keep changing the offer. And so, we just decided, finally at the end, we just said, forget it. It just, wasn't going to work out, and we didn't want to pay as much as they wanted after a point. They sort of went financially downhill. They were like a summer camp for the kids.
Okay.
And by the time they foreclosed on it, the bank, and then the bank was coming up on the end of the year, and the bank says, hey, we want to get this off the books. So,
nice.
and Dan says, hey, what can we get it for? And it's like, I forget how many acres, but there's like about 13 acres of land.
Yeah.
And there's more acres that are underwater.
And where is this?
Keep Lake Road.
I've never heard of Camp Peacock before.
Really?
Yeah, I've been there forever. I can't.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
About halfway down from Grand,
Okay.
on the right, as you're going north, and there's a little sign over on the right.
Okay. I'm sure it's one of those things that I never paid attention to, and then now that I know where it is, I'll never not see it.
Probably, but it fills up quick. The camp fills up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they don't do a big marketing blitz. It's not.
Okay.
If you don't know, you probably will never see it.
Oh, it's full of 100 kids right now if
Right.
you went out there.
Cool.
But the ones who do, they love it.
Sure.
Oh,
every
yeah.
year.
I think he said it filled up in 5 minutes this year when they opened up registration.
Cool.
Oh, really? 5 minutes?
Or something like that. There was a waiting list, and it was all over before it started almost.
Now, I want to get to the Venetian Village Civic Association for a bit before we run out of time, because I think Venetian Village, West Miltmore, that whole area, that was my favorite area. When I was on the county board, I loved that community because it reminded me of like the old times. It's such a close knit. Everybody knows each other.
It's the largest unincorporated area in Lake County.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yes.
The largest contiguous
Right.
section of. Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
I don't know if you remember a thing called Liberty Lakes.
No.
That doesn't know. That was back in the late '80s, early '90s, and there was a push to create a new, I don't know, call it a city or an incorporation that would have taken in Venetian Village, West Miltmore, down to Volo. I mean, it was sort of it was sort of a weird little spider's web of stuff, and they were trying to get it together to keep from getting sucked up by the other communities around.
Yeah.
And it didn't go anywhere, but it was a big push.
I think most of the residents I know in the area, they like their kind of non-incorporated status. They like their freedoms. But I think when we're showing buyers homes in that area, a lot of them object to having the well and septic. But I know a lot of you guys, you love your well and septic.
There's a few that don't. Every time that comes up, you have a room full of people.
Oh, yeah?
If you say, hey, we want to talk about sewers or something, and you're going to have a lot of people. But then as soon as people realize what the assessment's going to be, let's say we contracted with Lindenhurst or Lake Villa to get sewers brought in, the first thing you find out is, here's a $30,000 hookup fee or something. I mean, it's a lot of money.
It's not cheap.
And then all of a sudden people, their eyes sort of go wide at that point. But the thing is Lindenhurst and Lake Villa don't want to do anything like that because their houses are too far apart.
Right.
It takes, too many lineal feet of hookup lines that they'd have to run per resident hookup
connection.
fee. It just doesn't financially work. Plus the fact that they're at capacity. They don't have any capacity that they have or the future they want to put into a new development.
Right. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Because if they were to do it, obviously they would need to do an SSA, and the cost to the community would fall almost entirely on the Venetian Village community. You're talking about millions upon millions of dollars to do a project like that.
And realistically, I think the only way it would happen is if the federal government came in and says you got to do it. For whatever reason that there was groundwater pollution or something, that they said you got to do something to remedy the problem.
Like if something's getting into Miltmore or something's getting into the Sand Lake. What about wells? A lot of our buyers, they're afraid of the idea of wells. Are wells a big deal? Are they a problem?
Going back a few years ago, before the surrounding community started getting Lake Michigan water, there was a feeling, and it was probably true to a certain point, depending on how deep your well was, at what level it was at, that they were pumping the groundwater table dry. Like Lindenhurst and Lake Villa and Round Lake Beach were, pumping a lot of water out of the table, and some people's wells were drying up, and this goes back to the 90s, when that was, we actually, my original well, wasn't real deep. I mean, it was maybe 60, 70 feet. It wasn't down very far. And it was an old thing. It looked like Green Acres. I had a big cement cubicle, and you opened a trap door in the top, and the wells, the motor's sitting there out in the open right there, and then it's got a little sub pump to pump the water out of the bottom. And it was almost sort of comical. But at some point, the motor failed once, and I got a new motor, but it all had to sort of be done on the sly because the whole thing was not up to code.
Right.
So the county, if they got sniffing around on it, I'd have been out of water. But I did get a new well put in, and he went down pretty far. I don't even remember how far, but he says it was about as deep as he could go.
Okay. Now, the aquifer that we hit, does that water come from Lake Superior? Is that water that comes actually underneath Lake Michigan? And
I'm not sure the particulars on it, but it goes back to way back, Ice Age type stuff.
Right. So the water that they're drinking in Venetian Village is like literally prehistoric.
Wow. It's funny. You were talking about attitude, like just public opinion and attitude towards well water. And I do find that buyers that I work with currently are usually pretty apprehensive to take on well water, except for people who grew up in Venetian Village. So my mom grew up in Venetian Village, and I have a handful of friends and family members that grew up in the area, and all of them will be like, I swear by it, well water was fine. I never had a single problem with it. I don't know if there's something different about the way that it works out there, but every person that I know who's spent time living in Venetian Village will defend well water down to their core.
Well, I grew up in the sticks, so we had well water as a kid. And, so I didn't have any preconceived notions. And the same thing with septic. I mean, I knew when I was looking for a house, don't buy the house at the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
I'd say, if you have a water softener, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I mean, we get a little bit of iron in our water. So,
Sure.
I mean, I get rust.
The rust stains.
the rust
Sometimes you get a
stains.
little bit of the smell.
And then I'm fortunate that my water doesn't. We've had problems at the hall with the water sort of having a smell that would get going. But, with the sanitation kits that you can buy at Menards, you can sanitize your well. And that's, stop that problem right away.
So I typically try to educate buyers. Wells are not that difficult to deal with. The biggest problem with a well is if you have to replace it. Everything else is fairly, a water softener to make it feel better, not so hard, not smell bad, taste good. If you have bacteria, like you said, you sanitize it. It's a real easy, cheap fix. When we do well tests on property transfers, it's got to pump 5 gallons a minute. It's got to not be contaminated, and that's just about it. As long as it's doing that, it's fine. And the beauty is you don't pay for that water. You don't get a $300 a month or every 2 month water bill. You can water your lawn. I don't know. Can you water your lawn with well water? Do you risk ruining, drying out?
Well, I think some people may be worried about that back when, I haven't heard any problems in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
Since
okay.
more of these people have gotten, cities have gotten Lake Michigan water, I think it's taken the stress off of the water table.
Would anyone consider filling their pool with well water, or would they buy that water?
I think you'd probably be better off buying the water. Have
Okay.
a truck come in and do it. I mean, I personally wouldn't. Just to think about, it's not worth, ruining my well
Right.
to pump. How many gallons of water does a pool hold,
Right, yeah, I don't know, like 25, 35,000 gallons,
It's a
depending
lot.
on the size.
Would that
Paul,
ruin your well? I didn't know anything about that.
I'm sorry, what?
That would ruin your well doing that?
Well, you wouldn't want to pump it dry because then you get all the sediment and different things might get into the bottom of the pump and the filter
Okay.
and then, how long does it take for it to refill? I mean, it's sort of scary. I don't know any answers on that.
Paul, we got to cut to a break. Are you going to stick around with us for a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. We'll be right back.
Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr will return in just a few moments after these important messages. Don't touch that dial. Dick Barr.
Welcome back to Unlocking Lake County with Dick Barr. I'm your host, Dick Barr, and I'm here with Kristen Kaufman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Still joining us in the studio is Paul Berker.
Hey,
And I don't know what that voice track was on that song. I don't know if it's recorded with the song track, but I definitely don't think that's from the original recording of it. I only heard it in the headphones, though. I didn't hear it when it was coming through the speakers. But you had your headphones on the whole song,
I
right?
did, yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't know. It sounded like a foreign language, and I hope it wasn't dirty by any means because it sounded a little bit risque. So sorry about that. I got to check. I got to write a note to myself to check that track before it gets played again. So Paul, thanks for coming back with us. Just kind of like one of the things I wanted to make sure we got to, because anytime we're talking about how to make an area a good place for people to move to, they want to be there. It's about making providing amenities, places for socialization and stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about the Civic Center for the Venetian Village. I know you're the president of it. Can you? So what does the Civic Center, the Civic Association, what do they do in Venetian Village?
Well, it's different than a lot of places. I mean, some places have community centers and you can rent them to do different things, and they got a pool and all that kind of
Sure,
stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, this goes way back to the 40s when they started to, when they developed the land, I guess in the 20s and 30s, they allocated an area there to be dedicated for community use in perpetuity or something like that. And in the 40s, early 40s, they started building the community center. They put a foundation in, and they were, just different volunteers in the neighborhood were starting to put it together. And then World War II broke out.
Ah.
So then the whole thing just sort of sat for the duration of the war. And then when they came back from the war, then they continued to put it together. And then the building was, finished at some point after that. And then it was dedicated in the early 50s. To the community and to the, I forgot the founder's name, the guy that originally owned all that farmland and turned it into a development. It's been used as a, a meeting place, monthly meetings. Most of the residents back then lived in Chicago, and they came out to the village on the weekends or in the summer. Outside of that, we had the picnics and different events. A lot of that stuff happened, I wouldn't say before I was there, but I mean, they've even way back had like a little carnival and stuff like that.
Okay.
There.
Is there an endowment that supports the structure? And
No, it's all supported by a at this point, $25 annual fee for voluntary donations.
It's voluntary. So the HOA
Oh,
fee
neat.
there is completely voluntary.
Yeah, there's 1,200 homes between West Miltmore and Venetian Village.
Okay.
Maybe about 400 in the Venetian Village little square, and another 800 going down towards 83. That was West Miltmore.
I know you guys I don't know if you still do it, but at least leading up to COVID, I know you used to do the Halloween parties there.
Yeah.
The costume stuff. I know you do like the food truck sometime in the summer, and there was there a couple times. I think you had a band.
Yeah.
For like maybe not the 4th of July, but a summer party.
Yeah, our I would say the two biggest events that we have is our summer picnic and then the Halloween event.
Okay.
And we've added other things now. So now, we have an Easter Easter egg hunt in the spring.
Cute.
They do, Mary runs that, and we've got Mary Lewis. I'm bad with names, by the way.
That's okay. So am I.
I always forget her name, It's almost a running joke. We have a Christmas event. We got Whoville Christmas event.
Oh, cool. And what level of participation do you get from the community? How many people pay the fee?
I'm going to say it's less than 20%.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Considering it makes it such a family-friendly place,
Yeah.
it's putting these things on, I would have thought there'd be a little bit more, especially for $25.
A lot of people, I think, are just so busy. It's the same kind of people that are too busy to go vote.
Right.
They're too busy to get involved in anything. Usually, though, the families that have kids and they come to the Halloween event, which, we do, we've got hot dogs, cookies, we've got presents. We have little bags of goodies to hand out.
Sure.
And it's a pretty neat thing. We get the hall all decorated. I don't know if you've ever been in there on Halloween or not. I've seen some pictures.
I definitely seen some pictures.
But, we've had, fog machine. It's done up pretty well. And, it takes us a few days to get it all decorated and get ready to go and all that stuff. We've been really lucky the last a couple of years on getting a lot of donated food products from some of my customers.
Oh, that's nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got a Distinctive Foods has donated what they call bagel dogs.
Oh, I love bagel dogs.
Yeah.
Bagel
And-
dogs is like one of the things I can eat while I'm on keto with a special kind of thing. I can't eat a regular bagel dog, but I love it.
So, I'll go down there and get a couple cases of bagel dogs.
Oh, that's real
Instead
nice.
of us going out and buying the hot dogs and the buns and everything and doing them up ourselves like we've done in the past.
Sure.
But, I mean, we take the meager funds that we've accumulated and we spend them. We don't charge anybody anything.
Yeah.
And the same thing with our picnic. I mean, we We're going to have a pig roast this year and we'll have Italian sausage and hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff too on the side.
Yeah.
But, it's going to cost us, a lot of money to get all the product that we're going to use and put out. But, we put a donation jar out. Some people put money into things. So,
That's nice.
we try to have
Nice.
raffles. Some people go around and get raffle presents from some of the businesses and stuff. So people got, a way to give back to us with the raffle.
Okay, so now do any of the residents of Venetian Village, West Miltmore, do they get access to Lake Miltmore and Sand Lake?
When they join, they get a sticker for the car,
Yeah.
so they can use all of the beaches and parks that are in our area as well as the township. So that pass or the sticker, sort of gives them the ability to park their car in those lots without getting hassled.
Oh, okay. And then what about like access to the lake if they have a boat? Is that another cost? Is that a fee?
Right? Yeah, and we've done that because we spend a lot of money on treating the weeds and different
Right.
things. There's a $50 fee to get a key, which if
And
you're
that gives you access to the launch?
right, that gives you to the launch that's on Sand Lake and Miltmore.
Yeah. And that's not just Venetian Village. That's every.
Well, those are
resident.
the two that got the gate and the lock because the
Okay.
township is taking care of that, and they spend a lot of money doing the weed control.
Right.
So it's a way of recouping some money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't recoup all of it. I mean, we spend more money on the weed control than we get in, but I mean.
But can Lake Villa Township residents also go and get that key, or is it
Yes.
just yes?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
what I want to be clear.
So you could live in Lakeville or Lindenhurst and go get a, go
Yeah,
to the
even-
township, get a key, and be on our lake.
Yep, even northern Round Lake Beach,
Right,
which is also
and
Lake
they
Villa
would get a
Township.
sticker to put in their window that's from the township, so that they can park there.
Yeah, awesome,
Because
great.
we've had problems in the past with people just coming up from Chicago,
Just
and
dropping their boat.
dropping their boat and filling up the beach and different things, and then the residents complain. It goes, hey, all these people, they're not even from here, if they even speak our language. And maybe we can get the beach for our use. So that we get the signs up and everything
Right.
that says you got to have a pass or a sticker.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
And for the $25, I mean, you can rent our hall for party, and if you are not a resident, you can rent it for $300.
oh, huge benefit to the residents.
And if you are a resident, you can get it for $75. If you pay your $25 fee, you can rent our hall for a party for $75.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Awesome. Well, thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
It's very important that when people are shopping, that they know what kind of community and areas they're buying into. And you've talked about. Oh, do you have any upcoming events that you want to plug for the?
July 20th is our the third weekend in July. That's our big picnic that's coming up. We're going to have the Lakes Area Swing Band will be there from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Ooh, swing band. I love that.
They're really good. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like a full orchestra. I mean,
Oh, really?
it's. I could send you some pictures, and I think I got a couple little videos too.
Cool.
But I mean, it's really professional sounding stuff, and we may have another band after them. We haven't finalized that yet. There's been some miscommunication, so we may have a second group there after 3.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. We got only about 5 minutes left, and I want to hit some Q&A. Some listeners have asked questions in the past, and we want to tackle those. And we've got a list of these questions right now, and I know some of these you've already answered in your Mythbusters, Kristen.